Hey guys, JKMan99 here, and welcome to my predictions for the winners of the 91st Academy Awards. Now, this is the third year I've done this, and honestly guys, I'd really like to see if you guys want me to continue to do this in the future, so if you do, please like and subscribe to this video so I will be encouraged to do this more often in the future. I'm going to go through every single category, so if that's what you want, this is the place to be. And as in years past, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I'm going to show yellow for what I think should win, blue for what the experts say should win, and then finally white as my final prediction, whether or not I went with myself or the experts. I like to present all three of these so that you guys can make your decision on your Oscar ballots what you want to do. So without any further ado, let's get started. Best Visual Effects. This goes back to my Best Picture nominee theory. Usually in the past what happens is there's a movie throughout the year that everybody thinks is going to win Best Picture or will be nominated for Best Picture, but it does not get nominated. But instead it falls into the Best Visual Effects category. And the only picture that does that this year is First Man. None of these other movies were going to be considered for Best Picture. So with going with that theory, I would say First Man should win. However, and this is an interesting twist for me, the experts are saying Avengers, which I'm kind of surprised about because, I mean, out of all these movies, that's my favorite. So likely you would think, oh, I would go the Avengers here. But honestly, in this case, no, because I didn't think the effects of Avengers were anything that special. I mean, they were good. I mean, don't get me wrong. But there wasn't anything in there that made me think, these effects are better than any other Marvel movies in years past. I'm just very happy Black Panther wasn't nominated because their effects were not that good, especially with those rhinos, and they won the Critics' Choice, and if they had won for the Oscars, I wouldn't have been that thrilled. So I'm going to go with my own theory here. I thought that there was a decent amount of visual effects, especially at the beginning of First Man when the guy, Neil Armstrong, is like hitting the atmosphere and he has to basically do a crash landing. I thought that was done very well. Not so much the space stuff though, but I will get into some of the positives there as this video progresses. So to make a very long story short, I'd say First Man is going to win for Best Visual Effects. Okay, Best Film Editing. I won't be as long-winded here. The only two movies here that I think actually have a chance to win are Bohemian Rhapsody and Vice. Bohemian Rhapsody, they do a good job in more so montages and transitions, and there's a few back and forth editing techniques that they did pretty well. But overall, Vice definitely did the most experimental with the editing, and I think that's where the Academy is going to go. Just telling the story slightly out of order, like, you know, like they're in the past, they jump to the future, and then like towards the end of the movie they jump back to the 70s randomly, or the thing they did with the fishing hook and things like that. Vice was definitely taking some chances there with the editing, or hell, the mids, the fake credits in the middle of the movie. There you go. So I'm going to say that Vice is going to win for Best Film Editing. Okay, Best Costume Design. This is one where I have a bad feeling that Black Panther will win it, but I haven't made that prediction yet. My personal choice for this is the favorite. So the experts and me are both saying favorite here, so I'm gonna go with favorite for Best Costume Design. Okay, Best Makeup and Hairstyling. I think Mary Queen of Scots has a decent chance, actually, because there was a lot of multiple different uses in terms of their hairstyling there. Recreating the 70s like Vice did, I don't know. I mean, I didn't think there was anything particularly special about the way they did it, but obviously the makeup and hairstyling is clearly going into what made Christian Bale into Dick Cheney. I think that clearly won there. I mean, there are some parts where he really does look like Cheney, so he definitely never looks like Bale, but at least when he gets older. But there are definitely some parts where like, you kind of do see the Cheney there. So, I'm going to go with Vice for best makeup and hairstyling. Okay, best cinematography. Now, this one, I think, should be easy, as my phone's making noises. This one should be easy, because at the very beginning of the movie, I assumed that it was going to win. The movie, of course, I'm referring to is Roma. I think Cold War does have a good shot, but I can't imagine Cold War winning and then Roma doing anywhere else good if they don't win this particular category. A Star is Born, I'd be shocked if A Star is Born won this, because I remember at the very beginning of The Star is Born, I thought that the cinematography wasn't that great. So I'm actually surprised to even see it nominated, to be honest. So I'm going to go with... and let me just explain why for Roma. With Roma, just the way that everything was shot, and the lighting and everything that they did there, or just the choices of the shots. I know that goes in editing too, but just this opening shot. I mean, you could just take the opening shot and give cinematography there. So anyway, I can go on and on about it, but I want to give equal time to all these categories as much as I can. So I'm going to say Roma wins for best cinematography. Best production design. Okay, now this is where me and the experts differ. It's been kind of smooth sailing so far, but not so much in the production design. When I saw Roma, I really liked its production design, because they had to recreate 1970s Mexico. And they did it in a real neighborhood, but they had to transform all the streets, the people that lived there, and they had to transform the entire thing. You never went down a street or went into a location where you didn't see that time period. And a lot of extensive work had to go into making that seem natural. And that was the best part about it. It seemed extremely natural that they were actually going through these locations. Now, the experts are saying that the favorite's going to win. And yes, they kind of did the same thing. They kind of brought you back into the 1700s. So what's the difference? Well, I honestly think it's easier to create a set based on history than it is to create a set in the present day based on only a few decades ago. And that's just my opinion. I think that enough has changed since then that, like, there's things you're going to keep from the time, but that you're only changing a few things. But you have to do it in such a way that it takes you back to that time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in any case, I'm going against the experts here, and I say Roma's going to win for best production design. Okay, best sound editing. Now, this is another one I'm going to go against the experts. We don't have our typical war movie in this category, or do we? Let's think about this. What is the one movie that kind of has some war elements to it? Black Panther. If you take away the music and you think about all those fighting sequences, there's a lot of sound. Ton of sound mixed together. Just like you would see in any action/war movie. And, I mean, I forget what website it was, but I went to a website that showed just the sounds without any music mixing. And, oh my goodness, like, there's tons of sound editing going on. So, my pick is Black Panther. But for the experts, Black Panther is near the end of the list. And First Man is on the top of theirs. And I would also say Quiet Place also has a really good chance at this, too. Because Quiet Place... really the only one that I don't think does is Roma. I'd be shocked. Roma's not going to get this. But, well, Roma, actually, no, I'm going to take that back. Roma could get this and it wouldn't be that illegitimate because they had to recreate the sounds of the 70s, too. But in Quiet Place, it basically used the sound to create its scary techniques and things like that. And then I could see it going to Bohemian Rhapsody because nobody's thinking about the fact that sound editing is supposed to be without music. And if you don't think about it like that and you're just like la-di-da-di-da, then you're going to go with Bohemian Rhapsody when you're not thinking. So I'm going to really hope that the Academy is not going to be not thinking here. And I think it should be either Black Panther or First Man. Now, experts are saying First Man, like I said. So... I'm going to go with myself on this one. I think, and I could easily see it going the other way, but I feel like Black Panther also has to win something. So, I am going with Black Panther for best sound editing. So, okay, best sound mixing. Here comes another situation where I disagree with the experts. I think Bohemian Rhapsody is going to win best sound mixing. They literally do sound mixing in the movie. What more do you want? I mean, if Phantom Thread's going to win last year for costume design when the movie's about costume designing, then why not have a movie that has sound mixing in it go to Bohemian Rhapsody? It's the same pattern. However, and I'm a little surprised on this, experts are thinking A Star is Born, probably for the same reason I'm thinking Black Panther. A Star is Born should win something. Well, I think it's going to win Best Song, so there you go. There's your thing. I spoiled it, but we'll get to it. But so why would I give it to a movie that does real fake music versus real music? What I mean by that is like they don't do any of the natural singing. And it's because of that. I mean, they had to take all these different performances and do lip syncing, which is much better than La La Land did a few years ago in terms of the lip syncing. And apply it to a movie where natural sound's happening. And they did it in a very effective way. There are very few parts of the movie where I actually didn't believe there was singing. There were a few, don't get me wrong. But I thought it was done actually really well. And the irony is that there were actually parts of Star is Born I could not believe was not lip syncing, but it wasn't. Like, so my point is that like the sound could have been as mixed as well if I'm thinking that. That's kind of weird logic there, but that's the logic I'm choosing to use here. So I'm going to go with Bohemian Rhapsody for best sound mixing. Okay, let's get back to... Alright, best original song. Shallow's going to win. Best original score. Now this one was a little bit harder because everybody, including myself, thought that First Man was going to be in this situation and get it, but it was not. It went to it's going to one of these five. Now, when I listened to the scores, my favorite score was actually Isle of Dogs, but nobody else is thinking that, so I guess it's just my own personal opinion. And it seems like the experts are going with If Beale Street Could Talk. I didn't think it was anything that special, but I'm going to go with the experts on this one because I really have no real stake in this category. And I'm going to say that If Beale Street Could Talk is going to win for best original score. Okay, we're here at the shorts. I did once again watch all the shorts, but I'm not going to go into specific details like I did last year because I realize most of you haven't seen them. Okay, so for best animated short, my favorite was actually Late Afternoon. It was the only movie that made me cry, and I think if an animated movie makes you cry, it tells a story. But it's on the bottom of the experts list, and I have to agree that the animation wasn't that special, so I can understand why it more than likely won't win. For the experts are saying Bao at the top, B-A-O. I hope that's how it's pronounced. It could be Boo. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know how it's pronounced, guys. And now the second time I saw it, I wasn't that affected. But yeah, like before, I remember watching it before Incredibles, and when she eats essentially her kid, you're kind of like, she ate her child. What just happened? Like you kind of just don't see that coming, and I think that shock value. Well, I'll tell you something. The shock value took me away from the rest of it because when I watched it recently again, I realized, oh, that's what it was actually about. So I think the shock value actually sort of ruins it, but I feel like the shock value also gives it the most attention, and the experts are saying that's what's going to win. I'm not going to go into the plot details of the other ones, but I will say I did not like Animal Behavior. I actually really liked Weekends, and I actually liked One Small Step too, but I'll admit there was a part of the short I actually really wasn't paying attention, so that tells you it's not really an attention grabber either. Though I liked those two, though, as well. The only one I didn't like was Animal Behavior, so I'd be happy with any of these winning except Animal Behavior. But I'm going to predict BAO for best animated short. Okay, live action shorts. So, and again, this will not be live. It'll be during the commercials and possibly re-aired during the show, which is so unfortunate. But, yeah, child murder. That's what most of these are about. In some way or fashion, either a child who goes missing, a child dies, a child kills their parents, a child kills another child. Like, that is these movies. There's one movie in that mix, though, that was different, and that was Marguerite. And that's just a movie about a lady that's aging, having some regrets about her life, and confiding in her nurse a little bit. And even though I didn't think that was the best one, like, okay, let me back up. If I would say Detainment is the best one if I was choosing, because the child acting was just really, really, really good when they're being questioned by the police, and I think that overshadows the rest of them. Now, most of these weren't in English either, so I think Skin also has a good chance of winning. But I'm actually going to go with Marguerite on this one. That's what the experts are going with too. And the reason for that is because, I see, normally, like, if there's a kid in one of these movies, they have a good chance of winning. But this year, there was no kid. Or, I mean, there were too many kids. Too many kids. They're too much of the same formula. So I'm gonna go with Marguerite for the best live action short. And Beale actually was on Wikipedia before the others were. Okay, best documentary short. Now, this is an interesting one. I'm going to be all over the place on this one. Both Black Sheep and A Night at the Garden, in my opinion, are not true documentaries. One is a reenactment of a story, so it's kind of like Unsolved Mysteries. And the other one is just footage from the 30s, like for 7 minutes. That's it. It's just raw footage. Endgame has been done before. It was really good, but it's been done before. Like literally 2 years ago, they did like almost the exact same documentary. Now you could say the same thing about Lifeboat. However, I really liked Lifeboat because of its cinematography and music. I thought it was telling a good story, and they also like really, really did it well. So my pick here is for me, would be Lifeboat for all 5 of these. And this is another documentary short I might get upset about this year because the experts are picking Black Sheep, and it's like, oh, again, it was a reenactment. Nothing against what it was about or what the story was, but I don't like documentaries that are all reenactments. I mean, okay, I'm gonna use television as an example. Like for 60 Minutes or Dateline or 2020, like they don't do reenactments. They find ways to make it visually interesting when they're telling stories. You could do the same thing with this story, and they chose not to do it. Instead, they hired people, they made them act out parts. It was more narrative than documentary, in my opinion. This was more live action short than documentary short. So, but I'm not going to go with either one of those. I'm actually going to go with Period, End of Sentence as my pick, and I don't really have a strong reason for it. I think it's rated higher and it's average of these, and I feel like that's probably what's going to do it this year. So I'm going to go with Period, End of Sentence as my pick for the winner. So do with that as you will. Okay, best documentary feature, guys. I'm really sorry. I didn't see any of these. So when I was first looking at this, I thought RBG was going to win. I think Free Solo won at the BAFTAs. So I was really going to go with RBG at first, but I remember watching the trailer for Free Solo, and I thought that was pretty good. I also thought of Fathers and Sons was good too. The trailers, I mean. And the other 2 trailers I did not like at all for the other 2 movies. So I'd be actually kind of annoyed if those 2 won. But again, I haven't seen these, so I might be missing something. Or if they did win, I'm more than likely missing something. But this is a complete guess. I'm going with Free Solo for best doc feature. Okay, best animated film. I only saw a few of these. I did not like The Incredibles 2, but I don't think it has a chance of winning. I think it's either going to be Isle of Dogs or Spider-Man. And I saw Spider-Man, it was pretty good, and that's been winning so far, everything that's been nominated for. So I'm going to go with Spider-Man here for Best Animated Feature. Okay, so we're getting into the good ones now. Best Adapted Screenplay. Okay. In the Golden Globes, the only one of these that was actually nominated was If Beale Street Could Talk. If this was me, I'd probably say A Star Is Born is the best one. But what's really bugging me about this is that most people are thinking BlacKkKlansman is going to win this. And what bothers me about that is that it hasn't come close to winning anything. From what I've seen, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's an award show out there where this won screenplay and I just didn't hear about it. But for the most part, it hasn't won. So why would it win the Oscar? And now, maybe because they're saying, oh, BlacKkKlansman has to be thrown a bone here. But I'm telling you, one of these movies that is in the Best Picture category is not going to win something. It's going to happen. And I think BlacKkKlansman's got to be that movie. I think it's going to be one of those movies that just is nominated but doesn't win. So I'm going to go with kind of what the Globes did. I'm going to go with the only movie that was nominated, going back to the Globes, and I'm going to go with If Beale Street Could Talk for Best Animated Screenplay. All right, Best Original Screenplay. Now, this is another one, I believe, where there's a disconnect between me and the experts. Yeah. After watching all these movies, I went into this award season liking Favorite over Green Book, based on the trailers. Then I watched the actual movies, and I completely changed my mind. I liked The Favorite, but I thought it was average. There was nothing special. The specialness of it didn't really come out to me as much. Green Book, however, I thought it was going to be another Driving Miss Daisy, but I was pleasantly surprised, and it immediately shot up the charts for me, because it had been winning all these awards, and I was like, how is Green Book winning all this stuff? And then I saw it, and I'm like, okay, now I get it. And it comes down to its screenplay. It really does. I think it's an amazing screenplay. And yeah, you could argue who wrote it and where it's all coming from, and why Tony Lip looks so good in this movie. But it says something very important at the beginning. It says inspired by a true story. It doesn't say this is the true story. It doesn't even say based. It says basically this is a story, but it was inspired by this. Yes, it uses their names, but that set my mind at ease just seeing inspired by a true story, because that made me think, oh, okay. So it's literally telling you we took some liberties here, which is fine by me, as long as they say so. So I'm going to go, well, let me back up. I'm going to go with Green Book for Best Original Screenplay. Okay, Best Supporting Actress. Here comes the part where I surprise everybody. Of the 5 supporting actresses, I thought the best performance actually was Emma Stone. Yeah, that's right. I thought it was Emma Stone. And I realize she's on the bottom of everybody else's list. But of all the diabolical characters in The Favorite, I thought hers was more diabolical than Rachel Weisz's character was. And I thought she was much more interesting than the Queen was. And then, I mean, Amy Adams hasn't won anything. I think the mother from Roma was a good surprise. I don't think she's going to win either. I think Regina King is going to win. The experts believe that as well. I have no reason to disagree with that. I don't think it was necessarily the best performance of the 5, but I do not see them giving it to Emma Stone or Rachel Weisz. I can't see them giving it to Amy Adams after she's won nothing. Or the girl from Roma either. But the girl from Roma has only been nominated here, nowhere else. So that's something to keep in mind too. But I'm going to go with Regina King here for Best Supporting Actress. Okay. Best Supporting Actor. You know, this one's pretty easy. I'm not going to waste your guys' time on this one. Mahershala Ali is going to win for Best Supporting Actor. That's my thoughts there. Michael B. Jordan should be here and probably should be winning, but he wasn't nominated, so Mahershala Ali. Okay, Best Actress is kind of all over the place, too. In terms of performances that are really differentiated from their real-life persona, I would say Olivia Colman nailed that. Like, she plays somebody completely different, and did a really good job there. I just don't like the character. I just thought the character itself was boring. Lady Gaga, another interesting story there, because Lady Gaga is kind of playing a fictional version of herself. So I don't feel like she had to reach too far. However, the part when she gets to get put on stage for the first time to sing Shallow, I think is the best scene in all of cinema this year. And it was very genuinely done. She does an amazing job of just appearing like an average person. And then when you listen to her in interviews, she's clearly not that way. So there's clearly some acting going on here. She's not just literally playing herself. So, now, until I saw The Wife, it seemed like Glenn Close's character wasn't anything special. Then I saw The Wife. And I gotta tell you, then I got it. Because 7/10 of the movie, you're like, okay, I think I might say Gaga's gonna win this or something. But then the ending, oh my god. I'm not gonna go, I won't spoil it for you, but I'll just say that there's a moment in the movie where she asks her husband not to do something. And then he does it. Very, very blatantly. And the look on her face was, you knew S was going D. Let's put it that way. And the scene, the climax of the movie was so good. I actually watched it twice. Like after the movie was over, I'm like, I'm going to rewind this. I'm going to watch it again. Like, that's how good it was, and I rarely do that with any movie. And it was her performance that did it. So, by far, Glenn Close is going to win for Best Actress this year. All right, Best Actor. If this was up to me, Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, and Viggo Mortensen would tie and all win Best Actor. It's very hard to differentiate those three performances. Bradley Cooper stays in his role the entire time, and I realize it's his idea in his movie, so it's easy for him, to do that. Which is probably why he's going to lose some credit for this. But man, he never breaks into like a Bradley Cooper type persona. Like, I mean, his range is so good. From Rocket Raccoon to this, I mean, let's see, Christian Bale. Now, I don't know if he was ever really Cheney in the movie, but he wasn't Christian Bale. He was some sort of a other person, and that's the whole point. It has nothing to do with the makeup either. He transformed himself into this other guy, and like you never once looked at him and thought that was the guy who was Batman, you know. And then Viggo Mortensen, I mean, same thing. He totally transformed himself into Tony Lip. I'd almost argue better than the other two. But I have to look at the other two also based on like what they were willing to put into what they did. So if it was up to me, they'd somehow all three of them would tie. But yeah, who do the experts are all talking about? Rami Malek. And the problem I have with Rami Malek's performance is not so much performance, but I feel like everyone is just awarding the who he's playing, not so much the performance. And I also believe that we just haven't seen enough from the guy to really balance what he did based on his career. Now, that's just one man's opinion. I'd probably put him as the fourth best of these goods. And I want to say, like, he did do a really good job in the movie. I'm not disputing that. But I would say the other three did a little bit better. But I'm going to defer to the experts here, especially based on the other award shows. And I'm going to say that Rami Malek is going to win Best Actor this year. Okay, Best Director. I'm not going to waste too much time on this one either. Congrats to Spike Lee for being nominated. Congrats to the dude who did Cold War, but, you know, it's going to go to Alfonso Cuaron. That's the end of that one. And finally, Best Picture. This one's all over the place too, because in terms of these movies that I actually would normally see, it would clearly be the Marvel movies for myself. So Black Panther, you would think, oh, that would win automatically based on your tastes, but I'm not going to do that. The last couple of years, my choices have been like outside the realm. Like, I think one year I said Lion, the other year I said Lady Bird, and nobody was talking about either one of those movies being the actual winner. This year, however, I feel like my actual pick is going to be, or what I feel should win, is going to be mainstreamed a little bit more. I feel the movie that should win out of these 8 movies is Green Book. Yeah, I'm going based on the screenplay. I think that is the best overall movie. Experts are clearly saying Roma. Now, and I go back to my original point that I said before the people were announced. I didn't even think Roma was going to get nominated for Best Picture. And the reason I say that is because the movie itself is pretty darn average. There was nothing in that movie that stuck out to me. I like Letters of Himejima better. You know, I mean, like, I'm just picking another foreign film I liked. It just Cold War in the trailers looked better. I didn't see Cold War. I'm sorry. So why? And it's just this guy's story too, you know. But why can I understand it? And I want to explain myself here. The reason I understand why this movie is getting picked, I believe, is because of one simple thing. Sometimes movies aren't about the stories. Sometimes they're about everything else that's going on. The technical stuff, your sound, your costumes, your production, etc. Back in the good old days, like 80, 70 years ago, films weren't always necessarily narrative. Sometimes films were just art. You know, not that they're not art now, but they were more artistic. It was more about what they were doing with the lighting and things of that nature. And I feel like that's what Roma is. I feel like that's what Roma is just doing. Whether it was designed that way or not, that's the way I can respect it. I can respect the movie for doing what it was able to do on a technical aspect. So basically for me, this year is all about technical versus story, and in certain award shows, story is one, other ones technical is one. So I'm just going to go with the experts again, and I'm going to predict that Roma is going to win Best Picture this year. And finally, Best Foreign Language Film. I think this one's pretty easy. I just literally just said it. Roma is going to win for Best Foreign Language Film. Okay. Those were all the categories. I want to thank you very, very much for tuning into this video. And again, please like and subscribe if you liked it. And tell me who you think is going to win for each of these categories. Just leave a link below, and I'll be sure to comment to you. So thank you again for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and take care.